broadcasting live from unknown remote locations and not their parents' basements. It's B2B Tonight with Ryan O'Hara and John Mazza, featuring Heidi Solomon-Orlick, founder and CEO of GirlzWhoSell. And now, everybody welcome our host, Ryan O'Hara.
Hi everyone, welcome to B2B Tonight. As you can see, if you're listening to the video here, or watching the video or listening to the podcast, you can't see it in the podcast, but background's a little different. We're recording this intro a couple days after talking to Heidi. I'm really excited about this, Mazza. You recently went to a book signing with Heidi Solomon-Orlick, and she look at the book. Show us the book. Show it off a little bit. She just recently wrote this book called
Heels to Deals.
Deals. Yeah, tell us the
It was
gist,
actually
Mazza.
it was actually her, and I think it was like 28 other women. So there's like 28 or 29 or maybe even more different women all kind of wrote their stories and put them together in this book.
Yeah, we thought
Pretty
we'd
cool.
talk with Heidi a little bit just to kind of put things in perspective about what it's like to be a woman in sales. Maybe there's some things that we don't understand that we could get, and how to get more women involved in working in sales. We know hiring is a huge problem for sales managers right now, and there's some cool nuggets in here. Let's go say hi to Heidi. This guest is coming out with a new book, Heels to Deals, how women are dominating the B2B sales. And I'm not going to botch pronouncing her name because I don't have a speech impediment. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Everyone say hi to Heidi Solomon-Orlick. What's up, Heidi?
Woo, you got it perfectly.
I did it.
Hi, Ryan. You nailed it. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Before
Sweating over that one for a while.
I know.
I know. Now everything's just going to fall right into place. The worst part's over.
Behind the scenes, people don't know this, but when I was a youth, I had a speech impediment with M's and N's. So it took me a long time to get the name correctly without matching it. Basically, what I do is if the syllable has an M and then an N afterward, I match that syllable, which is incorrect. And I had to get that fixed as a child. Thank you to the teachers. Mrs. Songer was her name, for helping me with my speech impediment. Shout out to Mrs. Songer. Heidi, let's talk about a lot of things right now. I kind of want to focus on everyone's getting ready. It's 2022. I can't believe it. What happened? And they're hiring. They're going nuts. People are trying to figure out how to fill sales teams, how to fill sales roles. You got people switching jobs everywhere. One person works here, then they work over there. You're getting these job change notifications and stuff. How do women fit into the sales landscape? I kind of want to dive into that with you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. There is a lot of hiring going on, and and I think, there's a couple of things that needs to happen. One is, as you know, and I'm just going to kind of level set on some of the statistics, is that today in business to business sales, women represent only about 35% of the total demographics. And most of those 35% are white women, to be honest. If you overlay some other kinds of statistics, like looking at women in sales leadership, drops down to like 19%, and women in tech sales down to 12%, and you overlay any kind of diversity statistic like women of color, and the numbers are just dismal, right? So the first, thing is, when it comes to hiring, is we need to build more of a pipeline. And that's actually where our company, GirlzWhoSell, comes in, because we're working with colleges and primarily colleges and early college graduates, or to your earlier point, career transitioners who are looking to move from, let's say, careers in education to sales careers. And, we need to build that pipeline, because despite the fact that all these companies are looking, they're still having challenges filling their pipeline requirements.
I want to talk about the zoomed out landscape for a second, and then let's dive into how you can potentially recruit more women and get more women involved in your sales organization. That 35% number is really surprising, because what's the general population, right? I think it's like 51-40, not 41, or I'm sorry, 51-49 or something. Like, there are more women in the world than there are men, right?
There are, and there's actually now a higher percentage of female college graduates than men as well. So when you think about that, it's pretty dismal. And let me tell you, you think it's male dominated now, you should have seen it 31-ish years ago when I started in business to business sales. So I mean, it's changing, and I like the fact that I see a lot of companies committing to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're getting more intentional in terms of, you know, hiring and adding more women to their teams, not only to meet some of their diversity, equity, and inclusion goals and objectives, but guess what? In all due respect to the guys out there, women outperform their male counterparts quite significantly. So
I was about to ask you that. I was going to ask you, is there data on that? The problem is, I don't think that, like, I'm so worried about always saying the wrong thing with this topic, because, like, you know, people have opinions on things ahead of time without actually listening to the data on these things. And so it can always be a tricky thing to navigate. But there's data out there, and I can tell you firsthand, like, we have had a ton of positive experiences having women work in our sales team. And if you're a company listening to this right now and you're dealing with the Great Resignation, 1/3 of people just changed jobs the past year. You got people you're hiring because you didn't spend money in 2020 because of COVID, and now you have to spend it or you're going to lose it. Like, you're starting to go through the cycle and be like, crap, I have to fill positions, I have to grow more with the new normal and backfill the people that are leaving. There are tons of women out there that might be re-entering the workforce that might have quit their jobs recently because they didn't want to go into an office anymore. So, like, there's a huge opportunity there, right?
Oh, it's absolutely huge. And so, you know, what I say to a lot of companies that I work with is, you know, if you could achieve an 11% higher win rate, an 8% higher chance of stage acceleration, an 8% higher chance of quota attainment, and a 19% higher revenue through increased team diversity, would you hire more women? Kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Those are the stats.
That's crazy. And so if you're hearing this, the thing is, I do think that there are a lot of things that are happening in the sales world and sales culture. There's definitely there's a divide happening now that maybe didn't exist 15 or 20 years ago, especially in tech sales, where, like, people that watch our content know this, like, we're pretty anti-sales, bro. Like, that whole, like, I'll call him out. Like, Grant Cardone is a clown. Sorry. But Grant Cardone, I hope that people that like you don't like me because I'm saying this. I want to make enemies. Let's do it. Controversy. I'm calling you out. Your beard is weird when you have scruff. But no, like, he's got, like, I watched him at a drift conference once talking about, like, flying in a private jet, like, to an event. And I'm like, come on, man. No one cares about how cool you are and how much money you spend. He also said some derogatory stuff about his wife, like, on stage, and it made me wicked uncomfortable with all this stuff. I feel like there's a divide happening in sales culture, and the old way is kind of like that sales bro, rah, dominate, hustle lifestyle. And it's kind of not the right thing to do. I mean, the people that really win the race in sales today are the people that are working hard, but also working smart. And that's kind of a piece of what's happening in this space in general.
I would love to agree with you. But I have to push back a little bit. And, you know, I love you. And I love the fact that, you know, that you don't subscribe to that bro culture mentality. But I will tell you that the bro culture is alive and well in corporate America today. It is. And there's inherent bias in the hiring process. And until we get more women into sales leadership roles, because it's a proven fact that women hire women, right? Then, you know, that's going to be the challenge. So to your early question around, you know, how do we get more women in sales? I mean, it's got to start with building the pipeline, whether it comes from, you know, working directly with the universities and the colleges, whether it comes from, you know, from career switchers. We need to get more creative in terms of the, you know, where we're searching for candidates. We really need to take a look at the job qualifications that we're requiring individuals to have. We really need to begin to take a look at the language that's being used in recruiting ads, which is very, very male dominated, male oriented, right? Come and kill it, and, you know, whatever, right?
Crush your quota.
Yeah, crush it. Well, you know what? Women don't, you know, dominate in you know, in your industry. Women, you know, it's proven that they don't respond to that. In fact, they will choose not to apply for a job. And so I just think there is still a lot of work to be done around culture. There just is, because we can build the pipeline and we can get women hired into sales roles, but unless we change the culture, we're just going to be filling empty buckets.
When you said I was wrong for a second, I was like, uh-oh, what did I say? Because like I'm not saying the culture doesn't exist. I'm saying that I think you go back 10 or 15 years ago, I think there were a lot of people. I think a lot of people didn't think that it was wrong that it was like that, and that's kind of the issue. Is like, I think there's a new wave of salespeople and leaders and people that are putting effort out there to make sure that you're celebrating and putting women in a position to succeed too. And your book actually has a ton of examples from different people's perspective. Can you talk about the book a little bit?
Yeah. And I just want to go back and say, yes, I agree. It is changing. It's going to take a village and it's slow, but we can't do it without our male allies and people who are supporting women. So thank you for that. But we have a ways to go. The book, super excited about the book. Heels to Deals, how women are dominating in business to business sales. And I'll tell you, this was a labor of love. We launched Girls Who Sell last year. And as I mentioned, we work with college and high school age young women positioning sales as a viable career choice, because there still is a real negative perception of out there of what sales is, that it's sleazy and that you're just trying to sell people or companies things that they don't need, et cetera, right? And the whole bro culture thing. But, so I thought, what better way to actually demonstrate to young women what business to business sales is all about than to actually amplify the voices of women who are, at the top of their game, right? Who are already successful sales professionals. And so I started on this journey, and I contracted with BMC Talks Press, which is also a female, woman-owned publishing company. And my goal was to compile stories of women in sales. So share their sales journey, provide some guidance and advice and all of that. But I will tell you, Ryan and Jonathan, and we have 33 women in the book. And it's so diverse. I mean, we're from all different backgrounds, races, ages, religions, even different parts of the world, right? Because it's a global group of women, different stages of our careers, right? So everything from early stage, career transitioners to veterans like myself, right? Who have been in sales for 100 years. And what's so amazing about the book is to just see and read the insurmountable odds that these women have gone through to succeed in their careers.
Heidi, could you give us an example? Like, could you tell us, is it a spoiler in the book? Do you have like a thing where you can't talk about it, or could we get
No.
example?
I mean, I'll just give it. I'm not going to, call out specific authors because I don't want to. But I mean, things of escaping generational poverty or homelessness or abusive relationships or being pregnant, as, in high school as a single mom and trying to, figure out how to raise a child. And, even though we came from all different backgrounds, somehow, some way we all ended up sort of converging in this career that I happen to think is the best career in the world. And, we've been able to have financial independence and be successful and really make a difference in the world.
Let me ask you a hard-hitting question. This is, I've always wanted to kind of think about this because I try to really always have empathy when I'm thinking about these situations, but I botch it. I can't do everything perfectly. How do you, what sort of experience, how is it different? You, as someone you've been a woman in sales for well over a couple decades now.
Right.
How you've probably shadowed men and seen men on calls and stuff. How different are they treated and from what you notice is like a third party when you're going through this versus your firsthand experiences?
So I can answer that in a couple of different ways. It's a really good question. So the one thing I will say is that early on in my career, because I was surrounded by men and didn't have a lot of female or any female role models or mentors, I thought to be successful, I needed to emulate how a man sold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized that for myself, that was inauthentic, and it didn't feel right. And so I decided to embrace my femininity and embrace the innate skills that I had as a woman. And I'm not, putting people and men and women in buckets, but
Yeah, we're not everyone here, just disclaimer.
I want to qualify that, but my innate skills of my emotional intelligence, my ability to build relationships, my attention to detail, my problem solving skills. And, early on, I'll tell you, deals were getting made on the golf courses and the strip clubs and the cigar bars. And I was not comfortable with those situations and putting myself into those very difficult. So I became a product expert. I really prided myself on understanding my business, understanding my product and service, and differentiating myself in that way, but never compromising myself as a woman. So that's advice I give women all the time. Don't try to be men. These books that come out that tell women to try to be like a man, don't. So that's my first advice. Second thing is men, they do have a different style, right? Which is fine. It works. It works for a lot of men, but in general, men tend to be much more like numbers, commission, goal oriented kind of focus, where women lead with service, and women lead with relationship and with solving problems. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of a different approach. And I think because of that, that's why the data, and I don't have exact numbers, but the data shows that women tend to be more trusted than men in sales environments. And at the end of the day, people buy from people, not only people they like, but from people they trust. And I think that's why there's a correlation with how women outperform.
Let's zoom out of the gender discussion for a second and just talk about something in sales, actually, I think, that you brought up.
Okay.
People don't necessarily, so you were talking about how numbers are kind of a thing that you'll tend to see men push a lot more and things like that. If you actually zoom out and think about how you make decisions about stuff, a lot of the time people don't buy things or do things because of logic. They do it because of how they feel about something. And I think that that's like, emotional intelligence is another important element of selling correctly.
I agree. And I think that, regardless of gender, I think if your focus is on doing the right thing for your customer and the right thing for your client, and being able to help them solve problems, then and add value to their business and differentiate yourself from your competition, that's how you're going to win deals. I think if clients sense in authenticity, or that you're really more about just trying to get the deal to make commission, they're going to smell it from a mile away.
Yeah, you get the term I think that Josh Braun uses is commission breath.
Commission breath. That's exactly what it is. And I love that term, and he's absolutely right. And so I'm all about leading with service. And I think that, and by the way, it's also knowing when you can't solve for a problem as well. Like there have been times where, I've been meeting with a prospect or a client, and I've said, learn more about their business and realize that the product or service that I was selling was not the best solution for them. And so said, you know what? I don't know that we're the best fit. And then again, that's a way to build trust, right? I think it all comes down to trust.
So you've dug up through the book. How many interviews did you conduct for the book? I forget.
So we have a total of 33 women, but and there's, there's so many fabulous. I wish I could name them all right now, but we have two women that wrote, forwards for the book, including Lori Richardson, who's amazing, and we all know is just incredible. And then Samantha McKenna wrote a letter to the reader, as well as Farnoosh Brock. And then we have, authors, including myself, that wrote chapters.
I was going to say, through the interviews that you have in the book and people writing their perspective and their chapters and stuff, is there any trend on like where people and hiring managers can find women? Like where do you, I know it's like a weird thing that like we usually think about for like, if I launch a dating app, how do I get women? Or if I'm trying to do something like that, but like where do you find women for the sales for? Like where are places that you could find and attract them? Obviously there's job sites and stuff and tweaking the language, but what are some other ways to recruit women in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at more non-traditional channels, right? So there's companies like GirlzWhoSell, of course, Maggie, there's Aspireship, there's Women Sales Pros, there's National Association of Women Sales Professionals, there's Women in Sales Club, there's Thursday Night Sales. There's a lot of, and those are not necessarily women. Some are women specific, some are not. But I think, associating yourself with those organizations, looking at the, like a Rev Genius, like has Rev Women, or, Modern Sales Pros who are doing a lot of work around women is a great way to attract women. But I think you need to start getting creative. Educators, as an example, I can't even tell you how much outreach I get on a daily basis of women who were teachers or are teachers or in the education space that are like, you know what, I'm tired of being underpaid and underappreciated. I think I have transferable skills that will work great in the sales environment. And so hire me. Right.
Yeah.
So actually at GirlzWhoSell, we're doing a lot of work around that right now, of working with and building an educator network. And there's a couple of others. That's just one example. But I think the standard job qualifications that you look at, a sales job after sales job after sales job, just needs to be put to rest. Right. And why do we need, I saw a LinkedIn post, actually a poll, do salespeople need to have college degrees?
Yeah.
Okay. And 88% of the respondents, I don't remember who put the poll up, but 88% of the respondents said no. Well, let me tell you something. Go and take a look at sales job ads and even entry-level job qualifications. And it's like, oh, you need a sales, you need a degree plus 5 years of experience to start an SDR job. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So I just think, I think we need to get more creative and be willing to, hire to different different personality, profiles and traits versus these just blanket qualifications that don't necessarily mean that somebody is going to be successful at sales or not.
I actually go ahead, Maz. I'm sorry.
I'm just thinking a lot of these companies, they really need to kind of start from scratch with their hiring processes, because everybody they might be making slight tweaks to like their verbiage and in their job descriptions and things like that, but none of that stuff's really gonna work. Like, and like you said before, there's tons of communities for women out there. Like, we just need to do a better job of making sure people know about them and like outside of the normal B2B spaces that already exist today.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, if you're I agree. I mean, having prior sales experience doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be, you know, successful. You can find people maybe that don't come with the, you know, 5 years of sales experience, but they have a healthcare background. So why wouldn't you look at them for, if you're a healthcare company? But it's like, you know, they have gotten so prescriptive, and, you know, with the bots and everything else, that, you know, the human touch of reviewing resumes is gone. So a lot of really fabulous candidates are getting kicked out of the, you know, kicked out of the process. And I think I agree with you, Maz. I think it's a real problem. And there's a lot of really great talent out there that is being overlooked.
One of the things I saw prior to COVID, I went to a breakfast that Lori Richardson put on to talk about women in sales. And one of the things she talked about is there are studies out there that show that when you put a job description out, women are much more likely to disqualify themselves prior to applying for a job than a man is.
That's great.
Like if someone's like, hey, no, I've made this joke before, but if someone's like needs to know JavaScript, and I'm like, well, I drink Java coffee, so I'm going to apply for that job, even though I don't know JavaScript at all. Like that's my criteria versus the perspective of someone. So if you make your task and qualifications for a job too intense, you have no shot at hiring that person. So like open it up, keep the qualification list maybe a little less, right? Like put a little less things in there.
Yeah, and I think you just need to prioritize, like what are must-haves, you know, that you really absolutely need to have for the job, and then what are nice-to-haves. And you're absolutely right. Lori and others have talked about this, right? That women are less apt, depending on the language used in the ad or the qualifications, if they don't meet, you know, a high percentage, and I don't know exactly what the percentage of, I've seen numbers like, you know, 95% or 100% or 10 out of 10 or whatever. I don't know that there's some formal study that shows that, but you're right, Ryan. Women will tend to self-select out because I don't know if it's a confidence factor, or they don't want to waste their time or waste the employer's time, but they're like, you know what? I don't meet the qualifications. I'm not going to apply. There's companies like HubSpot, I think is doing a great job right now, where they are doing their sales ads and all of their advertising, actually. And I think companies can learn from them, where they're literally in their job ads saying, you know, these are the qualifications, right? But even if you don't meet 100% of the qualifications, please apply. So it's sort of giving people the confidence that they're at least going to be considered. Because I'll tell you, it's a tough process. You get rejected time after time after time after time. You start saying, you know what? I don't meet 100%. I'm tired of being rejected. I'm not gonna do it anymore.
I have a last point I want to make, and I want to hear your opinion on this. I don't know if it's true. I have no data on this. If Lori and other organizations have done studies that say that women disqualify themselves out from applying for jobs because of qualification list, imagine how many women you might be interacting with that are disqualifying themselves from asking you for a job and using nepotism and networking to get a job. Right. Like that's also a thing. So if you're someone that's trying to hire and you find a woman that you've talked to outside of work that you think they might not ask you if you're hiring, offer. If you're hiring, every person you talk to, like, hey, you ever think of a career in sales? Or have you ever thought about switching job? Like, ask. If you don't ask, they might, like, these same studies might say that they might be disqualifying themselves out.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
So your book will be out, I believe, in March, right? What's the release date? I know you're doing a big event for it, right?
The book is going to be released on March 8th. I'm not sure exactly when this is going on. We do have a national tour that we're doing, kicking off in Boston on March 4th. And so it's going to be at the More Than Words bookstore in case this runs, hopefully before that, on March 4th in Boston. And you'll have an opportunity. There'll be, right now, I think we have 25 authors of the 33 authors confirmed. And the ability to meet them. We'll be reading some chapters. We'll have some good food, and you'll get a free signed copy of the book. So I can send you the registration link for that. And then we're also going to Dallas in July, and we're going to Los Angeles in October for Women in Sales Month. And then we'll have a bunch of virtual events to promote the book in between. So
pretty exciting. A lot of things going on, and we appreciate you being on, Heidi. On our end, I do want to let you know that we are hiring, and if you read our qualifications and think they're too intense, ignore them. Just apply. We don't care. We'd rather. So if you're looking, I don't know. I gotta go look at our job descriptions now and see if they're bad. But anyway, we are hiring if you want to do that. Outside of that, if you work in sales and you're trying to make your life more productive and do more, go to LeadIQ.com, hit that get started button. You can mess around with us. We give you 15 captures a month, 15 captures a week to make you a little bit more productive at prospecting. Heidi,
yeah, your product's amazing. I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Heidi, thank you so much for being on. Check out Heidi's book. Add her on LinkedIn. This is exciting. We actually got someone from New Hampshire on here too, which is nice. We should we'll have to do something locally soon.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll talk to you later.